Thank you. Okay, Ms. Schlachter, thank you so much for being here.
All right, so I do have a presentation to share, so let me pop that up real quick. All right, let me get my notes so I stay on track. So again, my name is Rachel Schlachter. I'm an assistant dean at the University of Virginia. I cover an area for our office called North Central Virginia, which includes Prince William County, Loudoun County, over to like Stafford, Woodbridge, Fredericksburg, all of that area. So when it comes time to applying, you might be thinking about UVA. You're like, who's actually going to read my application? Hi, I am one of those people. So always nice to put a name to a face. Before I really dive into my section, you might be thinking like, what can I do now? And they talked about applying for scholarships, looking for other things. And I get this question a lot from juniors, like, what can I do now to prepare? And the answer is pretty simple. So staying strong with your academics, focusing on your academic preparation, doing well in your courses this year. A lot of you have maybe been given the opportunity to challenge yourself with certain courses. So doing well in those. And then on the other side, staying involved, getting involved, doing what you love, loving what you do, whether that's through extracurriculars, hobbies that you participate in, a job, family responsibilities. So if you're thinking like, what can I do now? Those are my two answers for students. But when it comes time to apply to a four-year university, these are the things that you want to think about. So first, we're going to start with the actual application deadlines. When am I applying to college? There's all these funky names that come along with it. So I'm going to go through kind of what each of these decision rounds might mean so that when you're visiting a college, when you're on their website, you're like, oh, I think I remember someone talked about that. So there's a lot of different ways to apply to at the university with a different decision plan. So early decision is a binding application plan. It means that you are applying to one school. Early decision, you can apply to other schools through a different decision round, but basically you're signing an agreement that says, if our school is to offer you admission under early decision, you're signing an agreement that says, you're going to submit your deposit, accept your offer, enroll in the fall. It's a done deal. You're going to withdraw your other applications. For UVA specifically, that's a small portion of our applicant pool. For some other schools, it might be one of their larger decision plans, so something to kind of think about, but it is a binding application plan. A positive is that, it's one and done. If your top choice school has this plan, you could be done with everything by January 1st and kind of have your college search out of the way. But there's obviously a lot of students who aren't ready to make that commitment, and that's totally fine, which is why there's so many other different decision plans to apply into. So early action is going to be the most popular for a lot of schools. So you're going to probably apply early. Normally it's in the fall time along with kind of the early decision deadline. You're going to hear back earlier, but have until May 1st, which is the national deadline to submit a deposit. So you're going to have this time frame between getting your offer of admission to visit, look at financial aid offers, scholarships, kind of take things into consideration before making a full decision by May 1st. Some schools might have restrictive early action. That's normally private schools where you can only apply to one private school in an early round, but you can apply to any public university that you want. So a little less common, but definitely something that I wanted to kind of just throw out there for consideration. Regular decision is normally going to come along later. For us, for example, it's a January 3rd deadline this year. It's on a Monday. For a lot of schools, this might be their one application round. A lot of times with regular decision, we will also see mid-year grades. So if you think your application is going to be stronger with senior year grades, that's also something to consider. And some schools might do rolling admissions. So meaning that for all these other decision deadlines, normally there's just one day that we release decisions. For us, it's normally on a Friday afternoon, and all of our decisions go out, whether that's, admit, waitlist, deny, defer, any of that. For rolling admission, those decisions are going to come out maybe on a weekly basis, a 2-week basis. Basically, once they've finished the review of your application, they're going to let you know about your potential offer of admission. So again, a lot of options, but hopefully now you have some insight into all the different options to consider. Now, what do you actually need to apply with? a lot of different pieces. First, it's the actual application. So there's a lot of different things that are covered through the application. There's a lot of different applications available. There's one called the Common App, common for a reason because hundreds of schools use it. So the nice thing about that is maybe all of the schools that you're applying to are on the Common application. So you just fill it out once, check all of your schools, maybe add some additional information if a school is asking for it, but it's hopefully going to help streamline that process for you. There's something called the Coalition application. There's a QuestBridge application. Some schools might have their own specific application. So that's really where we're going to see like your demographic information. It's where you're going to list your extracurriculars for us. It's also normally where we're going to read your essays. So one kind of nice little package to put most of your materials in. We're also going to ask for your transcript. So I think, college applications are such a stressful time. And I think sometimes students can lose sight of the kind of point of applying to college. It is an academic-based review. So we're looking to see, how you've challenged yourself throughout your 4 years of high school. What classes have you taken? What rigor was available to you in the classes that you're taking, AP, dual enrollment, things like that. Some schools might have specific baseline requirements that they're looking for. So maybe they're looking for you to have completed a certain level of math, a certain number of years of foreign language or certain lab sciences. The school that I attended for undergrad actually had an arts credit that they like to see. So they wanted students to take like a dance, music, theater, art class, anything like that. For schools like UVA, who are on the more competitive end, we're on the kind of level with other top public schools in the country, other top private schools in the country. We're really looking for students to stay strong in their rigor, continue to challenge themselves throughout their 4 years, staying strong across those 5 core areas. So English, math, science, humanities, and foreign language, of course. Testing. A lot of questions about testing, always some drama with testing, but that's okay. That's what we're here for, is all of those questions. So when I talk about testing, we're talking about standardized testing. So the SAT, the ACT. Recently with the pandemic, a lot of schools went test optional. So UVA was one of those. We didn't think it was fair to require a test that just wasn't widely available. Testing dates were being canceled left and right. So with test optional, that means you can submit your test score if you'd like to. You can also not submit your test score. Maybe you don't love it. Maybe you wish you had done a little bit better, but it wasn't your best day. You can leave it behind. Maybe you're happy with your test score. You want it included. So you have that option there. Some schools are also test blind, meaning that they will not consider testing in any form. So even if you do submit it, they're probably like, we're not going to include it in your application. Nothing that we need to see. I know that some schools, when they go test optional, they might ask you to submit something else. So maybe a writing sample if you're not going to include a test score. So just something to think about, but test optional and test blind have definitely gotten a lot more popular over, the last year and a half. Extracurriculars, this is my line from before, do what you love what you do. At this point, we're really just looking to see how you spend your time, what's important to you, and what you might consider, continuing at our institutions. What would you bring to our community? I am deep in the application review process right now. It's been 1 solid month. So we're just looking to kind of learn about students. I saw someone the other day who was in like this bonsai appreciation club, and they loved like grooming bonsai trees. Coolest extracurricular I think I've ever seen. And again, remember, extracurriculars don't just have to be your traditional school extracurriculars, but can be hobbies, a job, family responsibilities. We just want to see how you contribute meaningfully. And that can look a lot different from a lot of different students. So up to you on what you would like to do. We're also going to ask for a school profile, which don't worry, your counselor will take care of, but I like to mention it because it's normally going to include, a 1-page document sent by your school that tells us GPA scale, grading scale, how things are weighted, the courses available to you. So we essentially become like mini experts in your school and approach your transcript through that lens. We're also going to ask for letters of recommendation. Some schools might ask for a counselor recommendation. Some schools might ask for 1 or 2 letters of recommendation from an academic teacher. They might ask for an outside recommender. Maybe that's a manager, a mentor, a coach, someone like that in your life. I will say my PSA with letters of recommendation is always follow the number that a school tells you. Like, for example, we only need 2. So you can only really send 2. Our office record is 37 letters of recommendation, not something that our office or maybe any office wants to see. So I always tell students to follow instructions with things, and letters of recommendation is where sometimes things can get a little out of hand. With letters of recommendation, we're asking for them to learn about not only how you operate in the classroom, how you approach your learning, but also you as a person. There's a lot that goes into an offer of admission for any university. We're thinking about not just you as a student and hopefully the classes you'll take and the grades you'll get. We always want to see successful students, but we're also thinking about you as a roommate, as a community member, as someone who's hopefully going to be involved at each of our universities. So those letters of recommendation can really help us. Essays, again, just a way for us to get to know you. Sometimes there's that longer personal statement that a lot of schools will need. It's a time for you to kind of just tell us a moment, a story, an opinion you want to share. You can make us laugh, make us cry, make us think. You really have a lot of creative freedom with those. Some schools might ask for supplemental essays, so short answer with specific questions that they have, maybe about their major that you're applying into, maybe a little bit of a question about the school that you're applying to and how you might, for us, we have a beta bridge essay. So there's a bridge that our students spray paint, and then we ask you, what would you spray paint? So things to kind of help us learn a little bit more about you. There's also a whole other category of supplemental materials. Maybe you can submit an art portfolio, an architecture portfolio. Maybe schools would like another writing sample or a piece of graded academic work. So just things to pay attention to when you visit schools, when you look on their websites. Try to stay a little organized and figure out what exactly do I need to submit for each school. Then I also want to bring up just different things to consider. Financial aid. If finances are going to be a pretty big part of where you're deciding to continue your education, the net price calculator or cost estimator is going to be available on every school's financial aid website. So you can plug in a couple of rough numbers and see what your estimated cost of attendance could be. So a really good tool to use even before you set out those visits or even apply. You can kind of know, yes, this is going to be feasible for my family, or no, we do have to consider some other options. And look at the type of financial aid that a school offers to you. So is that merit-based aid based on academics, your GPA, maybe a test score? Is it need-based aid, so just based on your family finances? You'll probably learn a lot about these applications later, but the FAFSA, the CSS profile helps schools kind of gauge what your family contribution to education costs could be. And then we move from there to talk about, what does your financial aid package really look like from a different institution? Which application deadline should you apply to? Some schools will be very open with their deadlines, and if they prefer students apply earlier, if it's easier to get in earlier, if it's harder to get in later, if there's certain majors that you might need to apply to early if you're interested in them. So again, colleges should be very open and transparent about that, but always a great question to ask. Legacy and residency. So does it matter where you live? Does that factor into your offer of admission? Is easier or harder to get in based on your residency? For a lot of public schools, they might have a residency requirement. For UVA, we have to be 2/3 Virginia residents and 1/3 non-Virginia residents. Does it matter where your parent or guardian attended? If they attended that school, is it easier for you to get in? Maybe a little bit more of a review is given to you, a little bump in admission. Even if you didn't go there, just something to kind of consider. Every school will talk about that if they take legacy into admission. Also, what kind of review process do they use? Holistic review means that everything comes into play. Everything is looked at. Academics are kind of at the center and everything kind of floats around. Maybe they are prioritizing different things above each other. So again, another question to ask. I know there's a lot of questions to ask. We're all very similar, but all very different in a fabulous way. And then also this fun thing called demonstrated interest. Does a school take that into account? What does that look like? Does that mean they're tracking the emails that you send to them? They keep track of how many times you've visited their school or seen them at a college fair or some other type of event. If you need to, do some demonstrated interest, do that, focus on that. If you don't need to, recommendation is not. I get a ton of emails every day from students who just want to say hi, and that's super nice. But UVA doesn't track demonstrated interest, so you don't need to be spending all of your time on that if you don't need to. So that is my quick presentation. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.